I used to bicycle the 4 miles to and from work, along the main roads connecting to two towns in a part of southern Japan. Along the way, there were rice fields on both sides of the roads, shops of many kinds, a school or two, and quite a number of houses set back only about 10 or 15 feet from the sidewalk. One evening in winter, around 7:30, I was bicycling towards home and passed by several homes in a row along the left side of the road. One of them was a one-story wooden farmhouse that had a long, low facade with several square beam columns holding up the roof over the entranceway. As I neared this house, I noticed that there was a boy of perhaps 10 years old standing behind one of the columns, partially obscured by it. He was clearly wearing shorts. It is not unusual for boys to wear shorts all year long in relatively warm southern Japan, and a long-sleeved t-shirt, and most notably, a red baseball cap. As I got nearer and passed in front of where the boy was standing, I spotted him again, this time just a few feet away from me, and I noticed that where his face should have been, there was just a blur, a somewhat dark flesh tone blur, but no visible features. This quite naturally shocked me, and just after I passed on my bicycle, I looked back over my shoulder at the place where he had been standing. He was no longer there, though there clearly was not enough time for him to have moved so quickly that I wouldn't have seen him. I had chills during the rest of my way back home. The next day, I told the people in my office what I had seen the night before, and one of the older, upper 50s women told me that a stretch of the road was notorious for fatal car accidents, most involving children who dart into the street after a ball or some other toy. I suppose that to most readers this sounds like a fairly typical ghost sighting story, but it is the only one I have personally seen. What I can only conclude was a ghost, so it had quite a deep impact on me. Though I worked at that same job for more than a year after the sighting, and bicycled to and from work along the same road almost every day during that time, I never again saw the boy in the red cap. Victorville, California George Air Force Base is deactivated now, but back when I was assigned there in the 70s, I lived next door to a haunted house in base housing. My wife and I lived in what were known as Wary housing units. These were small concrete blocks duplexes that were 2 bedrooms that had swamp coolers for cooling in summer and natural gas wall heaters for the winter. We moved into our unit and found it agreeable for just the 2 of us. While talking to the neighbors, we found out that our unit and the next 3 units had to have the heaters replaced. The unit next to ours had malfunctioned, and the woman living there was asphyxiated. The next family to move in had a small boy, and he would wake up screaming every night. His mother asked him what was wrong, and he finally told her that the white lady kept coming into his room and saying, "I'm going to take you home with me." My wife had told her that I had experiences with that kind of thing, and volunteered me to go have a look. Naturally, I waited until it was full noon, before I went in to check out the house. Now at this time, we had a stupid cat. What other kind is there that will follow me around? So, in we go. Kitchen, okay. Dining room, okay. Living room, okay. Master bedroom, okay. Bathroom, okay. Kids' room. Uh-oh. No feeling cold or anything, but my eyes are drawn to the far corner of the room. I can't see anything there, but I know something is there. I glance down at the cat and it's looking in the same spot. Glance up, it has moved closer to me. Glance down, cat is fluffing up and backing down the hallway. I figure the cat has the right idea. Now, here's where I made a stupid mistake. I got in front of the cat. I hear the cat make a loud hiss, and the next thing that happens is the cat went up my back and off the top of my head running. I don't stop to look behind me, remember what Satchel Paige said about that, and take off running. My wife said she heard the cat make a noise, and then me saying, "Oh crap," then a herd of elephants running out the door. Needless to say, I recommended our neighbor have the chaplain come out. A second episode after that really had the hair stand up, and still does to this day. I was coming home around 2 a.m. and noticed the master bedroom window was open and the light was on. I glanced over, and there was the gal next door, brushing her blonde hair, and not wearing a stitch. Well, good neighbor that I am, I call out to her to close the blind at least. First word out of my mouth: lights off, blind closed, window shut. I don't to this day know how I got through the front patio gate or the front door. I woke up my wife and told her what I'd seen. She said 1. Our neighbor's hair is brown. 2. They were in San Francisco. And 3. The woman who died in that house was a blonde. I went to Blackburn College in Carlinville, Illinois. Before I moved into my dorm room, people asked which dorm I was assigned. When I told them Stoddard, everyone told me to watch out for the ghost, and I believe it was room 305. Blackburn is a very old school, and Stoddard was one of the oldest dorms dating back to the 1800s. The supposed haunted room was the only single room. The rest were doubles. It was on the 3rd floor, as the 3rd floor was all guys and the first 2 all girls. The story goes, a freshman hung himself in that room years ago, or another one was that a boyfriend killed his girlfriend and then himself there. Anyways, you were supposed to be able to hear them walking around at night and see them in windows and such. My room was diagonal from this room. My only encounters there were sometimes in the middle of the night. If I walked down the hall to the bathroom, I could swear someone was outside the stall walking around, but there would be nothing there. Also, I would leave stuff in my room, and when I came back, it would be gone, and then later return to the same spot. I transferred schools the next semester for personal reasons, but the weird thing is, the guy who lived next door to me there always said how he could see the ghost, and then I got word that he tried hanging himself last semester. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. In 1992, I was a full-time student at Columbus State Community College, earning an associate's degree in law enforcement. I had to earn a full-time salary as well, so I took a job as a security officer during 3rd shift at American Electric Power Lab in Groveport. It was a facility set out in a rural area, and with the understanding that I would be the only one in the building during the graveyard shift, figured it would give me time to study. I will try to make this as short as possible. My first few weeks there were rather strange, as I kept seeing the presence of a shadowy figure of a man walking very fast out of the corner of my eye. I really did not consider it a haunting or ghost, because I never saw the apparition head on, so I just went on about my business and really did not give it much thought. However, I became very uneasy and spooked during the midnight and early morning hours. One morning, at about 6 a.m., I happened to be looking in the direction of the same window blinds while I was sitting in the lobby area. The window separated the lobby and the work area. Just then, I saw the definite figure of a man walk by the blinds. I got up and, thinking it was an employee who had gotten in early, went to investigate the area. There was no one there at all. The cleaning crew then related the story in which they were seeing a ghost in the building. They described the same type of apparition to me. I never told them about my experience. While training new officers, I had some who would stop in their tracks while I was showing them the building. I would ask them what was wrong, and they would be looking towards a room or hallway and tell me something like, "I thought I saw someone walk by." This happened more than once. I spoke with the guy who used to manage the security division, and he told me he had an officer leave in the middle of the night because he saw the shadowy figure of a man walking very quickly around the perimeter of the security fence. I told an employee at the building, whom I had gotten to know over the time I'd worked there, about the sightings. Almost immediately he said, "Oh, that must be Roger." He was very serious. He said that Roger died about 8 years prior, but that he loved his job, and that was probably him. Indeed, there was a former employee named Roger that died 8 years ago. Without going on and on, I will just say that many other security officers had reported the same types of activity. I quit the job back in June of 1993. I worked there almost 2 years. I would like to contact some officers working there now and see if the haunting is still going on. It was a cold winter's day. The year was 1991, and I thought it was a very typical day. Matthew, the little boy that I care for, was taking an afternoon nap. As usual, I was cleaning up the kitchen, then gathered up all Matt's dirty clothes and put up a wash. It was around 3:30 in the afternoon when I heard Matt screaming. I could hear his voice very clearly from the baby monitor that was on the kitchen counter. I called to him so that he wouldn't get scared. As I walked upstairs to his bedroom, that's when it hit me first. On the way up to the staircase, I was chilled. I ran back down, got my sweater, then ran back upstairs to Matt's room. Well, that's where the coldness came from. Sure enough, as I opened the door, that's where all the cold air was coming from. It was freezing in the baby's room. I walked over to his bed, pulled the railing down, and held him in my arms. His hands were ice cold, and he was shaking and crying. In an effort to calm him down, I held him in my arms, and I tried rocking him back and forth. He finally had quieted down, so I began to change his clothes, and that's when I noticed my tape recorder on his dresser. I'd forgotten all about that. You see, Matt's family was relocating to another state soon, and I knew that I wanted something of Matt's to remember him by. So, that morning I brought my tape recorder with me to have a tape recording of him. Little did I know that was all on the tape. When I got home, I never did listen to the tape. It was Friday, so I thought to myself that I had the whole weekend to listen to it. On Sunday, I had some free time, so I started to listen to the tape. In the beginning I thought, well, I did it. I finally have Matthew's voice on tape, and was so happy to know that I have something to remember him by. As I began to listen, I heard our voices, Matt's, mine, and something that I couldn't make out. I kept backing up the tape because I heard something so strange that I couldn't even make out what I was hearing, but it sounded so eerie that it gave me the chills. What could this be? Did I have a faulty tape here or what? As I kept rewinding and listening, the more clearer it became. It was definitely a voice saying pull the gate up, but what kind of voice was it? It sounded ghostly, but how can this be? I heard nothing that particular day, only Matt and myself. There was no one else there, just the two of us. As I kept listening, I became more frightened. I heard the same voice saying I wish you were dead. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I never heard of anything like this before. I thought to myself, you're just imagining all of this. You're going crazy. But it was true. The tape doesn't lie. It had to be a ghost or something else. I had no other explanation. It just had to be. After a few hours, I decided to let my daughter listen to the tape. Now, my daughter is a very religious person. She has many religious friends and even knows a couple of Catholic priests personally. After she heard the tape, she told me that she would contact a priest right away. The next day, we called a Catholic priest that we both knew very well and made an appointment with him for the next night. Since the priest knew about the tape already, when we arrived there, we went right into his office. The three of us sat down, and he listened to the tape right away. Well, it only took him one time to listen to it. He already knew what happened. He looked at me, and he asked me if the family was Catholic, and I answered yes. Then he asked if there was anything religious in the home. I said no, and then asked him why. Then he began to explain that the family had no protection in the home. It was at this time that I understood what he was talking about. He was very concerned for the baby's welfare. He said that what he heard on the tape was evil voices and other things that I didn't even hear. Certain sounds of doors slamming and some creaking floors. He told me to tape Matt's room again, and if it happened again, that I should tell the parents. But what should I have told them? That Matt's room was haunted or the whole house was haunted? I didn't know what to do. If I told the parents the whole story, would they think I was nuts? So, I decided to take this to a doctor friend of mine. He happens to be a psychiatrist and also dabbles a little into strange and unexplainable things. When I went to see the doctor, I told him the whole story thus far. Then he listened to the tape. His exact words were, "The voice is not from this world. It's from another dimension that is not a human voice." Well, from then on until this day, from a priest to a doctor, this tape has been a mystery to me. So, I've decided to take my tape and my story to any parapsychologist or website that has to do with the paranormal and let the experts decide for themselves. What in the world happened to Matthew's room that cold winter day in 1991? I'm finally ready to hear what they have to say, aren't you? I lived in what I believe to be a haunted apartment for about a year. I cannot disclose the exact location due to the fact that the apartment is still rented to tenants. When I first moved in, everything seemed normal until I began doing some small renovations. My husband Eric began to pull up the carpet, and we noticed odd gouges in the floorboard that would be our bedroom. At the time, we thought that maybe some previous tenants had damaged the floor while moving their furniture, so we proceeded to paint the floor and lay down the rug. After 2 months or so, my husband walked into the bedroom after taking a shower. I was on the bed reading when suddenly, Eric slipped on the area rug that covered the gouges. After assuring that he was okay and passing it off as having wet feet, we turned in for the night. The next morning we noticed what appeared to be stains seeping through the area rug. They appeared to be the same pattern as the gouges. I picked up the carpet and noticed a slick substance sticking to the back of the carpet. After much arguing as to what exactly the substance was, we decided to just throw it away. We never gave it a second thought. About 3 or 4 days later, I was in the kitchen having a cup of coffee with my friend Alec when suddenly the room temperature dropped considerably. I asked him to make sure all the windows were shut. As he walked into the living room, he glanced into my bedroom on the right and noticed the curtains were blowing. He went in to make sure the window was closed, which it was. About 5 minutes later, we both heard a loud bang coming from the bathroom, which was on the other side of the living room. It took Alec and I a good 15 minutes to get the courage up to check the bathroom. The first thing you see when entering the bathroom is the tub. I opened the curtain and noticed 4 tiles on the back wall that appeared to be pushed out. You have to understand the layout of my apartment to fully understand our fright. The apartment was a 3rd floor attic in an old Victorian style house that was renovated into a small loft type apartment. When entering the apartment, you go up 3 flights of stairs, into the doorway, and up another 2 sets of stairs into the living room. To the right is the bathroom, and a little beyond that is a crawl space in the wall that runs under the eaves of the house and behind the bathroom and bathtub. Alec and I bickered about who was going to go into the crawl space. Needless to say, we waited until Eric came home about 2 hours later. We told him what had happened and insisted that he go into the crawl space to investigate. When he got to the space behind the bathtub, he discovered a lot of debris, which included dark old stained ropes and large J hooks. I insisted that he just leave them alone, and figured where the house was so old, they must have been left behind during renovation or construction. We had our landlord fix the tiles and continued with our daily lives, even though I was permanently left with a feeling of unease. For about 6 or 7 months nothing happened. On Christmas Eve of 1975, we had a tray set up in front of the crawl space door, which was approximately 2 inches wide by 3.5 high. The door fell open, knocking over the tree and smashing all of my Christmas ornaments. Eric jumped out of bed and stopped suddenly. We both heard a strange sound coming from the living room. It seemed to be coming from the crawl space. At the same time, I saw a strange mist or fog hovering close to the ceiling in the living room. It was a very faint, almost like thin smoke. I pointed it out to Eric, but it vanished before he could see it. I still can't believe how calm I stayed throughout this whole episode. When Alec and his new wife Vanessa came by on Christmas morning, we told them the whole story. Vanessa was a very spiritual person and became instantly spooked before we even told her the story. Alec commented on how strange she was acting before she entered the apartment. She lost all the color in her face and seemed aloof. She mentioned that something didn't feel right about my apartment. I really started to feel like it was time to start looking for a new place to live. Eric had to leave the following week for a business trip to California. He would be gone for almost 3 months. I asked my girlfriend Samantha to stay with me for a while. I did not want to be alone. Samantha knew what had been happening and agreed reluctantly to stay on the sofa in the living room. The first month and a half was pretty much uneventful, so Sam and I began to look at new apartments. I started feeling confident, and then nothing was going to happen. I was wrong. Samantha had to go back home for a few days, so I was alone. I'd gone out with Alec and Vanessa on a Saturday night and came home at about 1 a.m. I climbed into bed with a book. I must have fallen asleep while reading. Do you ever get that feeling that someone is near you? I woke up on my stomach, and I could sense somebody walking around my bed. I laid still and waited for it to pass. I heard the floorboards creaking, and I felt a cool breeze pass over me. I finally turned over and looked into the living room and saw the mist moving towards the crawlspace floor. The absolute fear that I felt paralyzed me. I could do nothing but stare and hope that nothing would happen. The strange noises started again. I can only describe the noise as a clang or knives being sharpened. I lost all of my composure. I ran out of my apartment wearing only my nightshirt and grabbed my car keys on the way out of the door. I drove to Alex and spent the night. I called Eric in LA and explained what happened and that I would not go back until he came home. I paid the rent. There was no way I was going to stay there alone. Eric came home on April 7th. I told him Alec and I would pick him up from the airport, and then we would go to the apartment and get our belongings. I will never forget what we saw when we went back. It made me a true believer in the paranormal. I still don't know to this day what was haunting that apartment, but I truly believe it was evil. We walked into the apartment to discover the rug torn up, almost gouged up in the living room. All the tiles in the bathroom enclosure were punched out into the tub. The bedroom truly horrified the three of us. It appeared that something mauled the bed linens. The mirror that we had was smashed as well as my lamps. We grabbed what we could salvage and started to leave when we noticed the rope and J-hook through the kitchen table. I don't know if a person came in and did all the damage, but nothing explains the J-hook and the rope. My landlord insisted that no one had access to the apartment since we had moved in. We left that day and never looked back. I did some research on the house, but found nothing significant that would explain any of the occurrences while we lived there. Eric and I now live in Vermont with our 3 kids. The house was renovated and turned into a retail store. We have not told them the story, and I don't think we ever will. Hey guys, it's Phantom of Darkness, and I have something to admit to you guys. Unfortunately, I feel like I reread some of the stories, and I feel so terrible about it. And before I could even realize that I did this, everything was already recorded and already set to go. So I'm so terribly sorry. I'll be better next time. I'll do even better than before. And I'll make sure you guys get exclusive content that's very good and very natural and very great. And I also feel like this performance wasn't my best, even though I tried as hard as I could, as usual guys, but I still got a video out because, you know what, no matter what, adversity comes your way and you have to work through it no matter what. So if you guys still want to share this video and still like, comment, and subscribe, I appreciate it so much. And honestly, I am a little bummed because of that, because I want you guys to have exclusive content that's new, that's original, that you don't have to worry about like if it's reread or anything like that. And just to know that I failed you guys in that way, like I gotta be better, I'm gonna be better, and I'm going to improve. So guys, please bear with me. Thank you for your patience. I love you as always. And I'm trying to be funny. You know, I can stick a butt up my ass and do all these crazy things like run through hoops and all that, but I can't be funny at the moment just because, I don't know, I just feel so bad about this. But guys, good night, good morning. I'll see you in the video that exists in the next hemisphere. I meant to say, I'll see you in the next video. I'm just all discombobulated, guys, but love you so much, and I'll definitely see you in the next video. I'm human, I make mistakes, but I just want to let you guys know that. And yeah, bye.